coaching the coach or coaching the coaches, discussions about football, different sports that I come across and have an interest in. At the minute, currently being from Ireland, biggest plight that I have at the minute is how bad the Ireland soccer team is doing, or the football team. And I just want to cover why exactly I feel that it is struggling and what we can do to improve it for Stephen Kenny and for the group. It's 11 games now without a win. It's not good for any country, but especially Ireland, who consider ourselves a proud footballing country. We at one point Ireland did have many internationals playing at the top level in the Premier League, and now with the infusion of European teams coming in and countries, it's now diminished quite a bit. But it might come back now with this Brexit and with visas and what have you, but all will tell in the next number of years. The thing about it is that Stephen Kenny is trying to play a very possession based, nice, he wants players that are comfortable on the ball, he wants players that can move the ball quickly, he wants players that can think on their feet. But the problem is, as Roy Keane has said, and I wouldn't be a big fan of Roy Keane, but he has said players aren't there, and very much so it's the situation that we're not scoring goals, we're not getting in the right areas, and certainly there is a case that the ball is just not bouncing for the players at the minute, and that is a big issue. Now, in terms of forward thinking players, Troy Parrott is one of the most up and coming players that Ireland have. The young boy Ida plays for Norwich, is also supposed to be very good, but all time will tell. They haven't been playing for their clubs. They have been loaned out and they haven't done fantastic in the lower leagues. So it's going to take a lot of hard work and a lot of effort and perseverance from them lads. But hopefully they can show what they've been showing at the under 21s. But I'm not going to be here discussing the Qatar game. Because it was a friendly, I did watch it and I thought that Ireland were very poor. They were poor in possession, they were poor out of possession. But this is what I want to show you here, is that, I don't know if you can see this very well, but just me. This is Ireland here without the ball. Okay, so just want to bring that in a wee bit. So they're effectively playing a 5-3-2. They have Seamus Coleman and it's inside centre back. They have Matt Doherty on the other side. At the right, they have Enda Stevens on the far side. They have O'Shea and they have Clark. Yes, Clark in the middle here. Okay, so and then the three in the middle are Brown, Knight and Cullen, and then they have Robinson, who's a winger up front, with your young boy Collins. With your young boy Collins, who is a striker and who can play up front. Now, the problem here that everyone can see is without the ball, they're very defensive. Okay, which you will see without the ball, of course, but the problem with these three midfielders is Josh Cullen is a defensive minded player. Alan Brown is a defensive sort of type of player. I'm not sure about young Knight, but that, if you look at this here, the same as Thomas Tuchel, there's 7 players here that are defensive minded players. If you include the goalkeeper, that's 8. So you've 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You have 3 players who are going to try and score you a goal. Okay? Now, so you might say, oh, the same with Liverpool, the same with other big clubs, but to me, this is why Ireland are struggling. your man Robinson can't score a goal for West Brom. Your man Collins isn't scoring or pulling up any trees for his own club, and young fella Brown is not the right minded. So you actually have, with this system, you have two players who are trying to score a goal. Now, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to know, if you're playing against Ireland, who's the two players that you mark, who's the two players you put pressure on, and who's the two players that you try to knock off their game. It doesn't take a rocket scientist. Now, this is what Ireland are trying to do when they do have the ball. When they have the ball, they're trying to play a 3-4-3. They're trying to play Seamus Coleman here, trying to play Cullen Clark, and they're trying to play O'Shea. Okay, that's pretty straightforward. The problem here is that Seamus Coleman is not at centre back. Now, he has played there for Everton a few times, but he's not. Then you have Matt Doherty here, okay, who's doing well, but he's not doing well at Tottenham at the minute. He's actually quite struggling. Enda Stevens is in one of the worst Premier League teams ever. They have surpassed Derby, but they're not going to leave the Premier League kicking and screaming. They're actually going to leave it in the next 2 or 3 games. Then you have Cullen and possibly Knight. So still you have an 8. You've still got an 8 here who can't score a goal. Now, you've got Alan Brown, you've got your man Collins, and you've got Callum Robinson. Now, the problem here, okay, is, and this is the big problem, that because you have Collins here, Robinson, okay, he wants to go like this, okay, he wants to move into this space. Then you have this guy, Collins, he wants to move here, okay. Now, all sounds good. This guy, if that guy's name isn't Alan Brown, he ain't going this way, okay. Now, so if for whatever reason this is Alan, who they want to move into the right wing position, he's not a right winger, he has to go this way. So he has to effectively run twice as much, which is no problem for young Brown. But the problem here is, if he's out of position, as he has been in the last couple of games, then he's not free to counter attack and get the ball up the field. Now, if he goes this way, you could say yes, he goes this way. Well, then what does Robinson do? He has to go this way. So he has to cut across Collins' line. This is why they're struggling. This is why they're not getting shots on target. This is why they're not penetrating and scoring goals. Because they've got the wrong players up the field. They've also got 2 defensive minded midfielder players and 5 at the back. Ireland haven't conceded. They conceded 3 goals against Serbia, but before that they hadn't conceded many goals in these games. That's because defensively the 5 players and the goalkeeper are trying to keep this door closed. But that only leaves, with the system and the type of player, that only leaves 3 and 2, 5 players to try and make something out of nothing. But with Enda Stevens is very good left back, but he's more defensively than Matt Doherty. Now, Matt Doherty is a good player going forward. When he's asked to turn in and defend and tuck in, he's not as good or not as pungent. Now, the fact that Qatar and Luxembourg have got out of the Ireland matches with a draw each doesn't bode well for Ireland, because they now have to play Portugal in the next game in September, but they also now have to try and find a different system that makes them more attacking, but also that doesn't leave them narrowing at the back. Now, what I would suggest is to go to 4-4-2, which is something that should be done fairly quickly. Bear with me a second. To me, that should be done fairly quickly and to the point. Now, sorry. I wasn't planning on doing this, to be honest, but what Ireland should be doing, okay, is Ireland, Stephen Kenny, in my opinion, okay, is trying to reinvent the wheel here. This is the international football. This isn't silky stuff. Germany, Spain, England don't play silky all the time. They play conservative because everybody wants to get the World Cups. Everybody wants to win World Cups. Not everybody wants to say they're the best team to play in the World Cup. So, there's two options here that Ireland could do. Okay. First option is a standard 4-4-2. Okay. Okay, so this is what we're looking at here. 4-4-2. Somebody like Shane Long playing in there. Okay, so you can have Callum Robinson there, Enda Stevens there, Kieran Clark there, your man, wee boy O'Shea, Seamus Coleman. Okay, they sort of more or less pick themselves. I like Shane Long up there, so then you could have, if you want to keep it tight, you could have your boy Josh Cullen. You could have your wee man Knight in there, or Alan Brown. I'd probably go for more Alan Brown. Then you're going to have to think of a the winger that can play. Now, what you probably would do is you'd have Troy Parrott here, young energetic player that can work hard and try and link up the play to give them a shot or give them more of a chance to play. Now, bear with me a second. Apologies for this here. Just trying to see. Yes, sorry about that. You could have Darrell Horgan or Seamus McLean. Okay, and that's your 4-4-2. Gives you attacking strength with your two midfielders, two wide midfielders. Gives you 4 players. So whenever they move forward, as they would do, then you have 4 players already looking to attack, and you've got one of these players who can potentially add to the attack, and one just drops back and shores up the defence. So you've 6 players defensively minded, and you've got 4 players, 5 offensively minded. Now, the difference between that and, as I say, let's just not do what you want. The difference between that and this, okay, is that you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 players with the goalkeeper, 7, 8, 9. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, 9 players defensively minded. You've got 2 players to try and do all the work up front, your winger and your striker. So you already have 80 or 90% of your team defensively. Whereas if you go with this here style, I think this would play ball, wouldn't you? Then you've got your wingers, 2 midfielders attacking plus defending. You've also got your 2 strikers in here. One can drop in and work hard for the team. If you really wanted you could try and find an attacking midfielder that can just drop into this area and defend. Now the second option that Ireland can go with at the minute is a 4-2-3, like basically like a 4-1-1. Now that there gives you all this here to defend, gives you an attacking player up the field, but he can also drop back. This is the player that makes all the dreams work. But the problem with Ireland in the Serbia and the Luxembourg match is that they were playing 3 defensive midfielders with 5 defenders. It always makes your life more difficult because defenders normally can't shoot, or they don't have as good accuracy as other players. So what Ireland should be doing is they should be trying to develop, get somebody like Conor Hourihane in there, but who was unavailable, get him in there to play off Troy Parrott or Steve or your wee boy Adewai. Get Callum Robinson in here, get Daryl Horgan or Seamus McLean, or even Callum Robinson over here and Seamus McLean over on this side, and then you have your 2 defensive midfielders, Cullen and Knight, and then you have your back 4. Okay, that would give you more validity at the back, but it also would make you more attacking because you have now 4 players instead of 2 trying to attack, but they'll also do their shift, and if you really wanted to, you could drop it into a 4-5-1. Okay, so thank you very much for listening, and I just want to let you all know that I really appreciate you watching these videos, and I know that I've not been about for a wee while, but I've broken the phone, so I just want to let you know that. I just want to let you know that I'm hopefully going to have a video now every week, and thank you for listening, and I hope that makes a bit more sense. Thank you, bye bye.